Marshall Applewhite and Heaven's Gate. Marshall Applewhite was a former music professor. He did not start as a dangerous man. He started as a believer. Then he decided he had a different message to deliver. He built Heaven's Gate around a single specific belief, that he and his followers were not fully human. He did this by combining Christian end times theology with UFO mythology, and claiming that he and his followers were extraterrestrial souls temporarily trapped inside human bodies. Earth, he said, was scheduled to be wiped clean, recycled, and there was only one way out. A spacecraft was hiding in the tail of the Hale-Bopp comet. To board it, they had to leave their bodies behind. The group lived in a mansion in San Diego. They followed strict rules. No romantic relationships, no sex. Several male members, and including Applewhite himself, underwent voluntary castration. They dressed alike. They moved alike. They called themselves a team. In March 1997, as the Hale-Bopp comet reached its closest point to Earth, they acted. Applewhite and 38 followers consumed a lethal mixture of phenobarbital and vodka. They placed plastic bags over their heads. Then they lay down. Police found them arranged in bunk beds. Every person wore identical black tracksuits and brand new Nike sneakers. Purple shrouds covered their bodies. Arm patches on their sleeves read, "Heaven's Gateway Team." They had recorded farewell videos before they died. Calm, cheerful, composed. They were not afraid. They were excited. Charles Manson and the Manson family. Charles Manson was a career criminal who never recorded a successful song. What he built instead was a following. And in the late 1960s, he gathered young, disillusioned people at Spahn Ranch in California. He controlled them through psychological manipulation and drugs. He preached a prophecy he called Helter Skelter, a race war he believed was coming, and decided to start. On August 8, 1969, he sent his followers to actress Sharon Tate's home. She was 8.5 months pregnant. She and 4 others were killed. The following night, Leno and Rosemary LaBianca were murdered. Messages were left at both scenes, written in blood, designed to frame activist groups. Manson never held the knife. He was convicted of conspiracy and sentenced to death. The sentence was later reduced to life. He died in prison in 2017. The 1960s had promised peace and love. Manson ended that conversation. David Koresh and the Branch Davidians, Waco. His real name was Vernon Howell. He renamed himself David Koresh, the Hebrew name for the king who freed an entire people from captivity. He told his followers he was the final prophet. He took underage girls as spiritual wives. When federal agents came with a warrant in 1993, a gunfight started. A 51-day siege followed. It ended in fire. Who started it has never been confirmed. 76 people died. 25 were children. Timothy McVeigh said Waco is why he bombed Oklahoma City. On the exact same date 2 years later, 19 of his victims were children in a daycare. He chose that date on purpose. Jim Jones and the People's Temple, Jonestown. Jim Jones told people he was fighting for equality. He was charismatic. He was convincing. Thousands gave him their loyalty, their money, and eventually their lives. He relocated his followers to a remote settlement in the jungles of Guyana. No press, no outside contact, no way out. A U.S. congressman arrived to investigate. Jones had him killed at the airstrip, along with 4 others. Hours later, over 900 people were dead. The drink used was laced with cyanide. Forensic reports and survivor accounts confirmed that some members did not drink willingly. They were injected. More than 300 of the dead were children. Jones was found among the bodies. The phrase "drinking the Kool-Aid" entered everyday language after this. The actual drink was Flavor Aid. Shoko Asahara and Aum Shinrikyo, Tokyo subway attack. Shoko Asahara was partially blind and ran a yoga studio. He built Aum Shinrikyo, Supreme Truth, out of Buddhist, Hindu, and Christian prophecy, and preached that Armageddon was approaching. His followers were not outcasts. They were scientists and engineers from Japan's most competitive universities. He gave them a project: produce sarin, one of the most lethal nerve agents ever made. March 20th, 1995. Morning rush hour. Members placed bags of liquid sarin on crowded subway floors and punctured them with umbrellas. They walked away. 13 people died. Over 5,000 were poisoned. Some never recovered their vision. Asahara was discovered hiding in a secret room inside his own compound. He was executed in 2018. Now here's what's easy to miss. These weren't uneducated or mentally challenged people. Most of them were professionals, former school teachers, engineers even, parents with children. Which means the real question isn't, how could they believe this? The real question is, what would it take for you? Keith Raniere and NXIVM offered executive success programs, personal growth, professional development, the kind of thing ambitious people pay for without asking many questions. Thousands enrolled. Among them, wealthy socialites, Hollywood actors, women who believed they were joining something that would make them stronger. Hidden inside was DOS, a secret all-female master-slave society. Members were blackmailed with personal material they had handed over willingly at the start. The initiation involved being held down while a cauterizing pen burned Raniere's initials into their skin. It lasted several minutes. Afterward, they were required to say thank you. Every session was filmed. Raniere fled when former members went to the FBI. He was extradited from Mexico and sentenced to 120 years in 2020. Yahweh Ben Yahweh and the nation of Yahweh Hulon, Mitchell Jr. called himself Yahweh Ben Yahweh. He preached that black people were the true Israelites and that he was their Messiah. In Miami, he built businesses, acquired property, and attracted thousands of followers who gave him everything they owned. The organization had two layers. The outer layer was visible, a religious movement with genuine community programs and real economic activity. The inner layer required murder. Specifically, to be admitted, a member had to kill and return with a body part as proof. Federal prosecutors documented at least 14 deaths tied directly to Yahweh. He was convicted in 1991 and sentenced to 18 years. He died in 2007. In Adolfo Constanzo and the Narcosatanas, Adolfo Constanzo had the face of a model and the reputation of something else entirely. In 1980s Mexico, he built a following among drug traffickers and high society figures by offering something no cartel could manufacture: supernatural protection. He practiced a corrupted form of Palo Mayombe, an Afro-Caribbean religion, and told clients his rituals made them untouchable. To perform those rituals, his cult abducted people. They were brought to Rancho Santa Elena. When authorities finally searched the property, they found a large iron cauldron. It contained human remains combined with animal blood and ritual material. The investigation started because one American college student, Mark Kilroy, disappeared during spring break and his family did not stop looking. Cornered in a Mexico City apartment, Constanzo ordered a follower to kill him. Roche Thériault and the Ant Hill Kids. Roche Thériault built a commune in rural Canada and called it the Ant Hill Kids. He claimed God had made him a healer. His followers believed him. He performed surgery on his followers using unsterilized household tools. He did this while drunk. He opened abdomens. He amputated a woman's arm as punishment, then reattached it himself with the same tools. She stayed. Over 20 children lived inside this commune. The outside world did not know. One woman eventually escaped and went to the police. Thériault was sentenced to life. In 2011, a fellow inmate killed him. The worst things do not always happen in the largest places. In the Order of the Solar Temple, Joseph de Mombro and Luc Jouret built a secret society for wealthy believers across Europe and Canada. They offered New Age mysticism, environmental philosophy, and claimed lineage from the Knights Templar. De Mombro used hidden projectors and special effects to simulate supernatural visions. When members began doubting him, he introduced a new teaching. Physical death was not the end. It was a transit, a passage to a higher plane on the star Sirius. In October 1994, 53 members were found dead in burned chalets in Switzerland and Quebec. Many had been sedated before being killed. Among the dead was a 3-month-old infant. De Mombro had declared the child a negative spiritual entity. The baby was killed with a wooden stake. Both founders died the same night. Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, Osho, and the Rajneeshis, Oregon Bioterror. Rajneesh built one of the largest spiritual followings in the world. In 1981, his group purchased a ranch in rural Oregon and constructed an entire city on it, Rajneeshpuram. Conflict with the surrounding county grew. Lawsuits multiplied. His second-in-command, Ma Anand Sheila, took control of the response. She devised a plan to win a local election by making voters too sick to leave their homes. Members contaminated salad bars at 10 restaurants with salmonella bacteria. 751 people fell ill. The group also plotted to kill a U.S. attorney assigned to investigate them. It was the largest bioterrorism attack in American history. Sheila fled the country. Rajneesh was arrested on a runway. A Victor Houtef and the Davidian Seventh-day Adventists, the failed prophecy. Victor Houtef was expelled from the Seventh-day Adventist Church for teaching his own interpretation of Scripture. He founded a separate community near Waco, Texas. His followers believed they were a select group, chosen to survive a coming global judgment while everyone else did not. Before his death, Houtef prophesied, on April 22, 1959, a world-altering event would occur. Hundreds of followers liquidated everything, homes, businesses, savings. They gathered at Mount Carmel and waited. Nothing happened. They had sold their lives for a date that passed like any other day. The community collapsed into factions. Years later, a young Vernon Howell, later known as David Koresh, walked into that wreckage. A Credonia Morinda, and the movement for the restoration of the 10 Commandments of God, Uganda. Credonia Morinda claimed the Virgin Mary spoke directly to her. She told followers the world would end on December 31st, 1999. They sold their homes, their land, their possessions, and gave everything to the movement. The date passed, nothing changed. They asked for their money back. Leadership set a new date, March 17th, 2000. Members were invited to gather. More than 500 people entered the church building in Kanungu. The doors were sealed from outside. The windows were sealed. Then it was set on fire. Investigators later found mass graves at other properties. The bodies showed signs of strangulation and poisoning. The killing had begun before the fire. The total death toll exceeded 700. Morinda was never found. It was not a mass suicide. It was a mass murder, and it started quietly, days before anyone saw smoke. David Berg and the Children of God. David Berg founded the Children of God in the 1960s as a Christian youth movement. Within years, it had become something else entirely. He wrote thousands of internal documents, letters, that functioned as group scripture. Women were directed to recruit new members through intimate relationships. Berg called it flirty fishing. His teachings went further. They sanctioned the abuse of children inside the group's communes, framed as spiritual love. The group operated in isolated communes across multiple countries for decades, largely shielded from outside investigation. Berg died in 1994. His adoptive son, Ricky Rodriguez, grew up inside the group. Before he died, he recorded a video, composed, voice looking directly into the camera, describing what had been done to him. Then he killed a former caretaker and took his own life. The group renamed itself the Family International. It continues to operate. 15. Warren Jeffs and the FLDS. Warren Jeffs ran isolated communities across Utah, Arizona, and Texas. He claimed divine authority. His followers did not question it. He controlled marriages. He took numerous spiritual wives, several of them minors. Families who disobeyed were broken apart. Wives were reassigned. Children were reassigned. In 2008, law enforcement raided his Yearning for Zion ranch. Inside the temple, the community's most sacred space, investigators found a bed placed directly at the altar. Hundreds of children were taken into state care that day. Jeffs was on the FBI's 10 most wanted list. Officers found him during a routine traffic stop, sentenced in 2011 to life plus 20 years. He still issues directives from prison. None of these people thought they were being manipulated. They thought they had finally found the truth. That's what makes it work. It doesn't feel like a trap. It feels like home. The question isn't whether this could happen to someone. It already has, 15 times in this series alone. The major difference between them and anyone watching this is just information.